Hello and welcome to Paradigm Playbook, a podcast for entrepreneurs in the business of sports. Your hosts, Dave Kozak and Steve Cook, are business owners, successful entrepreneurs, sports enthusiasts, avid readers, and longtime friends. For years, they've read every business book on the market and built successful companies with what they've learned. This podcast will give you the critical takeaways in just 15 minutes a week. It's a quick and easy playbook for building a winning sports business. And now, here are your hosts, Dave and Steve.
Did we help you learn, grow, and improve? Leave us a review to let us know how we're doing. Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Paradigm Playbook. I'm your host, Dave Kozak, alongside my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steve Cook.
Good morning, David. I'm looking forward to this morning.
Yeah, when we sort of broached this subject, it had a lot of relevance in my life right now. So I think it's going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of ways to go. We'll introduce the topic first.
So we're going to be talking about strategic timing today. And that could be, it means a lot of things, right? So if you base strategy, right? If you talk about strategy, whether it's hiring strategy, firing strategy, transition strategies, new product delivery strategies, warehouse inventory strategies, right? It's all about the timing of those things. And I think that's the point that we're trying to get across.
Yeah, and coming from a sales career, product introduction was a big timing thing, and it was talked about. It was, you build around it, you introduce a new product, and there's times when, a product gets held up for 3 years because you're waiting for the timing right. So the timing is the confluence of market, manufacturing ability and
delivery.
Right, yeah, delivery. But what the market is telling you about, is the market ready for it? And then you take all that happens in the world and lay that over top of your timing of what you're trying to do in your business. And, and everybody went through it with the pandemic, but, was that the right time to open a new business? Or what's the timing for a business?
And I think it is a trickle-down effect.
Right. You make a new product decision. Do you have the people to deploy the product? Do you have the people to manufacture it? Do you have the systems? Do you have at what point should you buy a CRM? Right? At what point should you create efficiencies that are maybe a little more expensive? Right? So I think timing in small business it's a complex subject matter, because it really is. It's like a spider web, right?
And it can be anything from, like you said, implementing a CRM, or any technology that that is going to enhance your growth.
So, I got a crazy little example to give.
Okay, I think stories are great.
Be relevant, right? So we were in this old building, not this current old building, a different old building, and the advent of access points, wireless access points, were getting to be a big deal. And we had made the shift to laptops. And we were always very concerned that if we pulled the wire out, the Cat 5 or the Cat 6 wire out, that we would lose efficiencies and effectiveness in the business, and we'd have downtimes, and there wasn't enough juice. So we put up one access point, stupidly. Mm-hmm. And the timing was right, but the execution of it was wrong, because we should have put 4 or 5 access points in to make sure that we didn't have any of those downtimes. But cut the cable. When is the right time to cut the cable? When is the right time to get rid of a phone system that's hardwired versus a virtual or desktop phone system, right? Like, all of those little things are just examples of timing execution pieces.
As is hiring,
yep,
firing. Everybody says, hire slow, fire fast.
Yep.
So it's the timing that goes with that, and most of the time, I think we recognize it when we misuse it. I mean, it's
very in your face.
Yeah.
When you do
So
it wrong.
the mistakes are more. So I'll give my story. So I've been through this transition the last year and a half, 2 years, from corporate America to entrepreneur world, and I'm loving what I'm doing, working with entrepreneurs. Small business is just,
it's awesome.
Kick ass. I just love it. Technology wise, I got roped into the corporate world of, Microsoft products, and this is how we do everything. And it's like, and then I moved into a Google world that is very, very different. And I've been fighting it for a year and a half. And just recently, within the last couple of weeks, I said, screw it, I got to go.
Yep.
And so and that is the timing to suit my clients. Whereas I was fighting to maintain my own comfort level.
Yeah.
So I think number one thing we can say about business is you're not the center of the timing. And that's the mistake that I made. So I think the timing for starting a business maybe is the most important thing is, when is the market ready for it? When will the market respond to it? And when will the market respond at a level that will make it financially sustainable to get through, the first, that 6 months? As we do a business plan, we're laying out, okay, you need, 6 months of revenue, to go into the business to make it worthwhile. But you have to time the opening so that when you start paying rent, within a certain amount of time, the money's coming in so that you can afford that rent. And that's a mistake that I see all the time in the sports business. We open when we're ready, and not when the market's ready.
Well, and I've always said at the onset of a business, if you're not holding back some of your available funds for the marketing to create the timing, like you can create some of that. At
some
the same
of it
time,
you can, yeah.
Right? But the auto industry is famous for timing, right? What does everybody know happens in the fall? Exactly. You're going to get deals on the old model cars, and you're going to get the newest and freshest on the same lot, and you're going to have an opportunity. And that timing has been historic since the advent of the auto industry.
But was that built around the fact that in the United States, the family life changes in the fall?
Yeah.
So I mean,
don't know.
Kids go back to school, and some of that is changing, but it's still kind of September. In the U.S., we get serious again. So launching a sports business, signing up for a new program in the fall makes sense.
Yeah.
Launching a sports business that launches in mid-November, not the best idea, because people are thinking holidays, they're thinking, vacations, they're thinking big meals. They're not thinking that. They're thinking finishing semesters. So, and then you put on top of that the sport that you're involved in. So It's like, okay, maybe you could do a soft opening for a baseball business late fall, early winter, because, indoor training starts heavily after the first of the year, so you do a soft opening. But if you're opening a baseball business and, you're getting everything ramped up and you're ready to go and it's May, it's tough to open a baseball business in June when everybody's going outside and you're inviting them inside. Yeah. Now, if you're doing a travel team business for anything, then better weather is better. So I don't know, the timing I think is critical to study the client base.
Well, and I think it's not simply the timing of the opening, right? Let's say you want to launch a new ad campaign, or you're going to spend a bunch of money to market to a new client base, right? If you're marketing indoor training in June, right, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. If you're marketing you're going to launch a boat campaign, are you going to do it in November, or are you going to do it in April? Right. And another, the cyclical nature of certain businesses, right? They talk about, in real estate, they talk about the hot market as the spring market, right? And so if you're going to sell a house, when's the best time to do it? When people are getting ready to finish up a school year, they're going to transition over the summer to their new location, and they're going to have stability when they go back to school, right? So timing matters in all of this, and strategic timing is the use of strategy to effectively put time on your side, right? That's what we're really trying to do here.
So you're mashing up your expectations and your ability with a perceived reaction, at least. You may be wrong about it, but
I've definitely been wrong in some of the campaigns I've done. Like, man, I thought that was going to hit, and the timing was off. The
And marketing is an aside, right?
There are so many reasons you can give for why marketing was effective or ineffective. So it can't always be, you're not always looking at timing of it, right? I think the point we're making on strategic timing is, are you at least evaluating that, right? I'll give you an example. We do a lot of workshops, right? We go out to the general public, high schools, colleges, and we teach, train, and offer sessions for people to come listen to. You've been to one.
Mm-hmm.
And we had, in the Philadelphia area last year, we had about 10 scheduled in October. Typically a great time for us. However, the Philadelphia Phillies made a run at the World Series.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Philadelphia, all the listeners out there, but we're pretty obsessed with our sports teams. And so
Obsessed is a good word.
I had people in the workshop with their phone watching the game. We had people that just didn't show up because the game was on, right? And it wasn't just one night. Like, you know how the ALCS or the NLCS and the NLDS go, it's like 7 nights in a row of baseball. And so you basically, it makes you think, but you also, in that particular instance, we couldn't just not do them. The marketing spend has already been there, right?
I'll give you a great story, similar thing, including the Phillies. We were launching a new part of our business in 2008. In the fall of 2008, we were opening a glow-in-the-dark miniature golf. And so, we had a fancy name. And so I tend to overdo these things.
Captain Cook's Pirate Golf, baby.
Yeah, so it was a big thing. And we had giveaways, and we invited people. And I had local dignitaries and, door prizes. And we had everything going. And it was scheduled for 2 nights after what would be the last game of the World Series, which the Phillies were in. And if you think back to 2008, the last game got interrupted
by a torrential downpour.
And it was delayed 2 days onto the night of our event. So it's like it was too late for me to change, but I did react to it. So we brought in multiple TVs to put around we sent out messaging, rebranding the event as grand opening / Phillies party, celebrate. Luckily, the Phillies won that. They won the World Series. We had a great event and probably had more people. But that was, mostly luck. But the fact is you can plan things and sometimes you can't control it.
I was at those games, Steve.
Yeah. So
it was cold and wet.
Yeah, it rained so hard. So I was talking before we started about a book that I was going back at, and Daniel Pink is one of my my favorite. He does great TED Talks, and I think I like him because he's very knowledgeable but very sarcastic in the way he presents things. So
you don't say.
He's fun. So yeah, I like sarcasm. But he was talking about the timing. The book's called When, and it's how to plan what you're doing. And the when is almost as important as the how and the why. So Simon Sinek lands on the why side. There's a lot of people on the how side. The Jim Collins of the world on the how side. The when side, and sometimes I think Daniel Pink picked it because it just was available.
Yeah.
But he went back and he does the research for it, and he says that the average person goes through a cycle daily in their mental state, and they have a peak. These are his terms. They have a peak, a trough, and a recovery. And it's the energy, the tired, the rebound, and if you can time meetings, presentations, not only to your peak or rebound and avoid the trough, and if you could, with your customers or clients, do the same thing. And he came out, and I forget the exact statistics, but I think somewhere around 70% of the population in the United States has peak in the AM hours, somewhere between 8 and 12 are peak hours. 12 to 2 are trough hours, and then there's a rebound. Now, that's not everybody, but that's generally. So if you're planning, one thing that we do in the sports business is staff meetings, and we do plan those usually for morning hours, but not for this reason. We do it because we don't have as many classes in the morning, so we have more staff availability. So we're doing the right thing for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And so we're not doing it for the timing. But think about how important it is to, if you're doing a meeting where you're going to discuss new programs, new marketing campaigns, and you do it 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Nope.
Trough time is bad. It's also a tough time for instruction because the creativity, the thinking isn't as alive at the time.
Interesting. If you have any business-related questions, feel free to send them over to us at playbook@paradigmplaybook.com. We're here to help.
The one other thing, and I'll let you talk in a minute.
Yeah.
The synchronization of coworkers, getting them on the same page timing-wise, where their energy level peaks at the same time, is important. And I think as I'm saying this, are you going through your staff in your head saying, "Oh yeah, I know that person's not a morning person. That person's, not, everybody that knows me knows I'm a morning person." So in my house, my wife and daughter who live with me are not morning people. I'm an annoying morning person. Like I wake up first thing in the morning and a joke comes to my mind. Well, nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to laugh
That's a
at
fact.
6 a.m. in the morning, but that's where my mind is. So I have to adjust my timing. But if you think about synchronizing your staff so that you get them together at the right time, and if there's one person that doesn't fit into that, maybe it's not the end of the world if they miss that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So you build around the timing of it.
Yeah, my brain is now spinning. Thank you for when we do meetings. I am not a morning person. However, I've forced myself into the morning routine, which I am highly effective in the morning.
Well, yeah. And
I'm not the nicest.
Right, but is that a good time? We all have admin work in what we do, and is that the right time that, okay, I shouldn't be talking to people at that time, but I can answer email. I can do some reading. I can do some research. I can add numbers. There's a lot of things that you can do when you're not at your creative best. And
for sure.
Or your bubbliest.
Yeah, and I think I have more so. I think Dan Sullivan's strategic coach talk about A time, B time, and C time. Or
Same time. Yeah,
it's like highly effective times. Either way, I have focused on. I've also found synchronization in days of the week, not just the timing in the day. So
absolutely.
We've determined that Mondays are bad days for meetings because everybody is coming off the weekend. So we're a little bit on a dopamine draw, right? And at the same time, everybody's answering all the emails and the phone calls and all the work that needed to be done that was sort of brought in over the weekend or lingering from last week is being done Mondays. So we really launch our meetings Tuesday morning. And so we have our sales and marketing meeting Tuesday morning to give salespeople the time to finish up whatever needed to be finished up, to tie up loose ends from the week before. And I just found that when we would bring people together on Monday, it would be a less effective environment, a less communicative environment. And so we synchronize in that way. And then on the partners, at the partner level in our organization, we meet on Thursdays because we're far enough into the week that enough stuff has developed that we can have a very effective meeting on the prior week and stay in high gear at that point. And we do it at 10:30 in the morning. So it's basically peak time for everybody.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that would agree with the Monday thing, and if you're in a corporate world, Friday afternoon's not a good time. Well, one, there's nobody there anymore Friday afternoon, so that's not a good time. But the mindset isn't there to plan, to think, to create, so that you have to go midday. So thinking those key times. But
for anyone listening, if you're the person that wants to schedule a Friday afternoon meeting, no one will like you.
Yeah, I've been through that. It's like,
dude, really?
Well, it's like I always, schedule sales meetings too, and want to do the first session at 7:30 in the morning, and it's like, so I start out with everybody hating me, and so I've learned that. It's also the energy in any session goes from beginning where the energy is high, if you're thinking of a workshop, the energy is high, and the midpoint is there's a lull in there. If you've been at a day-long workshop, you feel it. You're real energized. You're doing that. You go through. You come back after lunch. It's slow, and then it starts peaking again. So it tells you something. There's reasons that workshops end at 4:00 and not 5:00. Because they have to end when energy's high. You can't end, and workshops are done to create interest, to engage people with what you do. So you can't wait until they're bored and they just want to get out of there because you've lost them. So you have to engage with that. The same thing, I recently had a conversation with a sports club owner, and the discussion was doing hour classes versus 75-minute classes. And I was, and this is for children. So I was against the 75-minute classes. And my thinking is the timing allows convenience for a coach to slow down and teach, but it allows for boredom in the student. And, and the comeback was, well, we just can't quite get everything in. And I said, that's perfect. That's where you want to be in an instructional thing. In anything, you want to end it right when people want more, whether it's a sales presentation, a meeting, a lesson, a practice, anything. You want them wanting more. So the timing and the length of all the activities are as important as when during the day you do it and when during the week. So all these things go together. So before we get out of time, when I came up with this idea, I wanted to get a little bit of discussion into it, and I'll let you feed in here the tools that work best for you, whether it's technology, calendar, in planning to use your time. What works for you?
Oh boy, Steve, we're going back now. So
still got your Franklin planner?
No, close. I have my ideal week, which was the first exercise I did in my entrepreneurial career, which was, you're the owner now. You have to determine what your ideal week is, and then you have to start setting parameters around how you're going to operate. And so I used to go back in the ideal week. Monday mornings was always, again, for me, it was trying to establish what was lingering from last week that, and I usually try and shut my day down too, which is a huge thing when you talk about timing of success. If you shut your day down effectively, you set up the next day. If you shut down your Friday effectively and you pick up your notebook on Sunday night, or you pick up and just say, all right, I know what I
got to get going on Monday morning, you can start with a whole different energy. But so I did a whole ideal week of how I was going to make phone calls, when I was going to be doing A time, B time, C time.
And that sort of morphed. And then my story about joining a networking group.
Mm-hmm.
They met Tuesdays at 7 a.m. Well, if I was already going to be up at Tuesdays at 7 a.m., let me figure out from there, because I was committed to doing that, and I've been doing it for 15 years now. Committing to doing that, set up my Tuesday meetings, and then I sort of build everything from there. Now I'm a slave to the calendar, because I've got people constantly putting people on my calendar and moving things around. So for me, the timing is the calendar is driven by the calendar, and I block off sections where I know I'm not going to be effective. I do a lot of presenting at the 1 o'clock hour, because I can keep my energy high, And it's also time where I'd prefer not to meet with a one-to-one client. So I'll present to groups of people at that period of time. I think it gives everybody a little break. Whether it's the right timing for the recipient, I don't know. I've never actually thought about that. Would a 10 a.m. be better?
Yeah, and I think for some it might be, but for some it's not, and for some it works. I'll give you an example of, and I've become pretty much the same thing, the slave to the calendar. And a lesson that I learned from Darren Hardy, he had what he calls jam sessions, and so I've taken to calling them jam session, and they're simply times when you're going to concentrate on something. So I don't know how long you've heard me talk about, I'm going to write a book. Mm-hmm. And I work real hard to get everything done. So I had some time at the end of the day that I could write the book, and I would sit down to write, and I think, my
brains,
it's just
whitewashed.
It's like, nothing came out that was interesting or creative. So I flipped the script on that, and I am a morning person, so I can block out jam sessions at 7:30 in the morning and start writing. And all of a sudden I said this, and I'm a slave to podcasts, and I heard a writer on there talking about how he makes these contracts with himself, and his contract was writing 1,000 words a day. And I said, well, crap, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that's how I wrote the book. It's jam sessions and a contract with myself to write 1,000 words a day. Did I do 1,000 words a day? No, obviously I didn't. But, I wrote a heck of a lot more and heck of a lot better time for me by putting it on the calendar and having jam sessions. The other thing that I don't know who taught me this, one of those books that we've read that just said, just never schedule a 1-hour meeting. 50-minute meetings, 12-minute meetings. Start meetings off the hour. So there's so many tricks to the trade. My favorite one was Zig Ziglar, who said, what? For any important meeting, the thing you need to get rid of is the chairs. It's because people get too comfortable. So you'll get to the point if you have to stand up the whole time. So I don't know if that's true or not, but
That's interesting.
It was interesting. Get rid of the chairs.
Well, and that reminds me of so my father used to work for Arco Chemical. And when you went on Arco Chemical's campus, the speed limit was 17 miles an hour.
Really?
And he asked me one day, Dave, why do you think it's 17? I don't know, to be different, so you would notice it.
Yeah.
Right? And so the same kind of thing. You start a meeting at 4:12 and it ends at 4:50. Why is that the timing? Why is it a 38-minute meeting or whatever the math is there, right? But I think you notice it, and I think it's a little bit of in sales we call it a pattern interrupt.
Right.
And so you're interrupting what is the norm. I'm going to schedule it from noon to 1, or I'm going to schedule a half-hour session. So it's interesting stuff. Good food for thought there.
Yeah, and I think if to kind of recap and go back over it, that humans have this, daily cycle. We live in this week-long cycle. In the sports business is very different than corporate. So I went from corporate, which was, Monday to Friday. In the sports world, the big days are Saturday and Sunday. So you build to that. And it takes effort to move from one system to the other, to change your thinking. So we do high-level planning for weekend activities on Thursday. So Thursday becomes like a Monday.
Of the sports business.
Yeah, so it's different. And right now with my clients, and some of them are listening, that the challenge of the morning meeting to get them thinking about the next step in the business before they get wrapped up in the business. We do a little bit, more about. So there's a lot of things, but I think if we do anything with this today's podcast, it's get everybody thinking about the timing of everything. Today's podcast, it's get everybody thinking about the timing of everything.
Yeah,
everything has a timing
and
element.
Strategic timing is not a singular piece. It is sort of an ever-present thing. You're looking to expand your business. Is the right time to hire someone when you're already below water, right? When you're already drowning, or is the right time to hire when the water's at 80%, right? What is the timing of that hire? What is the expense of it? What is the return on investment? So like everything comes into that strategic timing environment.
And one of the biggest that I'm facing right now, almost on a daily basis, is people in the sports business that are discussing exit strategy. And
when's the right time?
Well, and I'll tell you when it's not. It's not when you get tired of the business or
that's a fact.
The business is slumping. It's like, so we write a business plan. Every business plan that we write, every client, they're forced to write a page on their exit strategy. And I don't care that it's going to change. What I want to see is, how do you envision it right now? Do you envision, building this thing, kicking ass for 10 years and selling it, leaving it to family, exiting it, moving
training
it, expanding,
a younger partner, like what's the
internal sales? There's all kinds of things, and it will change, but it has to be planned.
And that's right back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah. So
what does the end look like? And
it's a timing issue, though.
It is a timing issue
right.
for sure. But I think the other thing is, have a vision for it. The vision's going to change. It's going to evolve. The opportunities are going to present themselves, but you have to have some knowledge of what your out will be. And then the timing of it is huge, right? Because if you want to be out in 10 years, that starts today. You want to be out in 20, you got to start it 5 years in, right? So it all comes down to timing.
And you want to sell, if you're going to sell, you want the highest value at sale. And you can't start planning that now, as business is dropping off. You don't have the energy to grow it. Let's plan it now and let's sell at peak. Or exit strategy doesn't mean you're no longer involved in the business.
I know
it's just right. You're just doing a little bit less in the business, or you're taking on a different role. So, some people actually leave. The Steve Jobs leaves, comes back. But if you're the founder of the business, it's always going to be about you.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it right now. My exit strategy is Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I intend to work for a considerable period of time on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Oh, very interesting.
So I'm going to get my weekends extended, and I'm going to have a break in the middle of the week as well. But it's regimented time where I can do the training, I can do the managerial stuff, I can do the CEO operations that need to happen, make decisions, and make sure people are working.
So that kind of feeds right into your idea of everything on a process, because the business has to run without you.
Correct.
From day one, that was been part of your brain set.
And
so
part of my focus timing right now is like making sure that I can step out for multiple weeks on end and the business still operates. Right.
Timing.
All right. Speaking of timing, we have exhausted our time for the day. All right, everybody, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. We're not trying to be a secret. We want to help educate entrepreneurs as much as we possibly can. Our years of experience are wrapped up in this podcast to deliver it to you.
Yeah, and it's our mission to I heard someone once say, your best life is teaching everything you know. So we're trying to spit it out 30 minutes a week. So
absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Make it a great week.
If you know a coach, teacher, or business owner who could use our help, please refer them to us. We appreciate your support.